Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. And as you can see, I'm still trying to nail down this whole green screen thing. So you see that little fuzz there. Almost looks like a leaf is just magically appearing behind me. But anyways, what I want to do today is create a new demonstration of doing auth in React. Just because one, my older one, I did some techniques that I would do differently, and two, in my previous build, I had used React Router, and it was React Router 5, and now it's React Router 6, so it's a little bit different. So here I'm just going to kind of really build out sort of the login. I'm not going to build out the whole app, but I am using an authentication to do API that I built in this blog post. So if you want to know how I built the API that I'm using, it's in this blog post. I'll link to it in the video description. But this will show you how to create this authenticated to do API with Express using either Postgres or Mongo. So you'll have that there. Okay. The cool thing about this version is that it uses HTTP only cookie, and the nice thing about that is you don't have to constantly be putting authorization headers in all your requests, which is nice. But with that, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to create a new React project. Okay, so npx create React app. Okay, we'll just call it to do with auth. Okay, and I wrote npm instead of npx because it's a Friday morning, technically Black Friday morning. Okay, so let's try this again. It's loading. How much fun. Okay, but anyways, let's start getting this opened up and getting our basic components folders and pages folders created. So components for all our pieces of a page, pages. Okay, and then I'm gonna make a different one, a different folder you're probably used to. This is gonna be called atoms, and you'll see why I need that in a second. Because what I'm going to do, let me cd into that folder. So cd into to do with auth. I'm going to be using npm install React Router, of course, React Router DOM, which would be React Router DOM 6. But I'm also going to be using Recoil to manage state, and I'm debating whether I would want to bring React requests into this. Nah, we'll keep React requests out of this for now. Okay, and then that's that. Okay, so to set this up, I have to go into index, and I'm going to need to install all these providers. So I'm going to import browser router as router, just standard React router stuff. Okay. Oh, forgot the word from. That would be good. Okay, and then I'm going to import Recoil root from Recoil. That's essentially the same deal, but for Recoil. Okay, and then I need to add these providers over here. So I'm going to say Recoil root. Okay, and then that closing tag needs to wrap all of this stuff because it's a provider. It provides state. Okay, and then we're going to have our router component, and that also needs to wrap everything. So that basically enables router and Recoil for this application, and then that's that. See, easy peasy. Okay, that wasn't so crazy. Okay, now Recoil, what it does, it allows me to define certain atoms, which are state that I can share throughout my app. There's going to be two main pieces of state that I want to share through my app. My details about whether the user's logged in and their username, their authentication details. So I'm going to have an authentication piece of state. And then the second one is going to be my to-dos. So because theoretically I'm going to make an API call and update the list of to-dos, and we'll display those to-dos. Okay, so in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to atoms, and I'm going to create a new file. We'll just call it index.js. So that way I only have to import the folder. Because again, if you put it index.js, when I import source/atoms, I don't have to write index.js because it just automatically assumes the index.js file. It's just the way it works. So I'm going to create an atom, export. Actually, I need to import some things. So I'm going to import atom from Recoil. I'm also going to want use Recoil state because I'm going to make some custom hooks to make my life easier. And essentially what I'm going to do is first I'm going to create the atom. So I'm going to say const auth state equals atom. And the atom takes in an object with two values, which is, I think, the key. I'm trying to remember what is it. Is it the key? Yeah, key, which the key will just be, I always just name it the same thing as a variable, auth state. And then we're going to have a default value, which is the value if no other value has been established, which will just be logged in, which will start out as false because they won't be logged in at first. Username, which will be empty, and role, assuming we're doing the API has a role property, so that way you can track the role. Role. Okay, so there's that state, and then I want a custom hook to grab that. So I'm gonna say const use auth state equals a function that all it does is return the result of use recoil state, and I'm going to pass it the auth state. So this way I don't have to import use recoil state and the auth state atom every time. I just have this function that I can use that just does that for me. I want to export that because I want to use that wherever I need that state. Okay, the other state is going to be my to-do state for all my to-dos. Const to-do state equals an atom. And key here will be to-do state. And default will just be an empty array. Okay, once again, I want to export a hook. Export const use to-do state equals use to-do state. No, what am I doing? Use recoil state to-do state. Okay, so now I can easily just use this state wherever I want, whenever I want. So this is now like state that I can use across the application. Yay. Okay, so that's all I really wanted to do there. Now I'm going to go back to my app component, and I'm going to set up like the basics of my app. I generally like there to be a header component, so that way I can just kind of more plan out the appearance of my page in sort of more logical chunks. A new file, a main component that represents sort of the main body of the page, and a footer component. So I'm going to just create those real quick. So pretty straightforward. I just do function header, function header, okay, function header props. And then I'm just going to return a div that's, oh, actually I want to return a header tag. Well, it's fine, it's a div. It's a div with the class name of header. Okay. Cool. And then this is going to have the word header in there. For now, export default header. Okay, so there's one component. Hit save, just so it looks a little bit neater. Now I'll do the same thing for footer. So we use the multi-cursor feature. So I can do this, nice, and then do it again over here. Goody. Okay, and then we can import that into our app component, so I don't really need any of that. I don't really need any of this. Okay. import header. Okay. Import main. Import footer. Okay, import. Then here we just do header. Actually, in here I'm going to want the URL. This is going to be my base URL for my API. If I remember correctly, I have it running in a different tab. Yeah, 44,000. So const URL equals http//www dot just slash localhost 4000 slash. Okay, and then that's good enough for me. Okay, header. Just make that header. Then main. And then footer. Okay, I will definitely need the URL in main, so I'll pass that down as props. URL equals URL, because we'll make some API calls there. And that should keep me out of trouble there. Okay, now we need to start creating our main component, which here's where we're going to set up our router. So import routes route. I don't think I need any links here. So from React Router DOM. And again, this is React Router 6. I do also have an article on the differences between React Router 5 and 6. So when thinking those through, I'll have that article right over here. I'll link that also in the video description. Yeah, so that way you can access those. Cool. So React Router routes. So this is just going to be the div, and inside the div is we're going to render a route. So routes, and then each in here we have our route. Okay, and we're going to have our route with a path to slash, and that's going to be our main page. So elements equals, we don't have a home component yet, but we will. Okay, and then that's complaining that doesn't exist yet. It's common. Okay, then we'll have sign up, login. Okay. Sign up, but this needs to be uppercase. Login, dashboard. Okay. Sign up, login, dashboard. So I need to make those components. Those are all going to be in the pages folder because they represent pages, like different, you'll click on links and it'll switch out that part of the page. That's what the router is supposed to kind of simulate. So I am going to create those files now. So home.js, new file. Signup.js, new file. Login.js, new file. Dashboard.js. Okie dokie. And then let's copy like my boilerplate here. Set all these up. So this is dashboard. Oh. This is home. This is login. And this is sign up. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's start off with the home page. Although technically, it should be kind of working now, so I should be able to see like header, home, footer. That's what I should see. So let's just double check. npm start. Oh, looks like, oh, I forgot to do all the imports inside main. Yep. So import home, import dashboard, import signup, import login. Okay. I don't see home there at the moment. So that concerns me. Is it element? Did I get the prop wrong? Let's see. Yep, that was the case. Element. Okay, there we go. That's all fine and good. Now let's build a little header so that way there's like a sign up, login, home button. So let's do this. Now I am going to want to import the link component from router. So that way we can link to the different components. Import link from React router DOM. Okay, and that's all fun and good. React router. And what we're going to want is a bunch of link tags, which will take us to a URL, which are all wrapping another div. Okay, and we'll say that div has a class name of header link, little Bemish. Okay, and that is going to be saying home. And then let's just create a bunch of these. Actually, I only need 3. Login. Okay. Sign up. Login. Now if I look there now, I should see the links. See, there they are. So now when I click on them, see it changes the component. Because that's what React Router does. So you see it changes from home to sign up to login to home. And you can see it in the URL here too. Sign up, login, home. Yay. Okay, so that's good for now. It looks a little ugly, so let's fix that up real quick. Let's get rid of these boilerplate styling, and let's just style header. So dot header, I want that to be a flex box, so display flex with a justify content of space around. Okay, with some padding, 10 pixels. Let's put in a border, 3 pixels solid green. And I want the font to be a little bit bigger, so font size, we'll say large. And let's see here. Refresh the page. Yeah, that's looking a little bit more like a thing. Okay. Again, this is not a design build. Like my point here is not to teach you design. My point here is just to kind of show you the mechanics of building this sort of like feature set out. Okay, so we got that. Now what we want to do is build up the login and sign up page. Now generally the login and sign up form are going to look exactly the same. So why build the same form twice? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build the form once by creating a an auth form component, and then use it in both components, but use it with, a different sort of receiving function and whatnot. So what I am going to do is go to components, create the new file called auth form. That should be called authform.js. Because again, you only want to really have to make stuff twice. I mean, you only want to do stuff once if you can. So I will copy my boilerplate. So I'll copy that from the footer, because the footer is still all boilerplatey. Okay, and it's just going to bug me until I actually do this. So I'm going to just quickly style the main tag and just say that I want, in the main tag, I want it to have a width of 80%. I also want it to have a border of 2 pixels solid pink. I want it to have a text align of solid. Okay, and let me just see how that turned out. Oh, and then I need to give it a margin. Margin auto. And let's give it a padding of 20 pixels. Okay, so there we go. We kind of blocked off that area. Okay. I wrote text align solid. There we go. Let's see here. There we go. That's looking like a thing. Okay, back to our auth form. So let's sketch this all out. Auth form. Good. Okay, and I want to just basically this form is going to ask the user for their username and password. So I need state for the form because it's going to be a standard controlled form. So I need to create like some state for the form. So I need to import like use state. So const use state from React. Import use state. Getting all my syntaxes, my module syntaxes confused. Okay, const form set form equals use state, and again the initial form is going to be blank, so it's going to be 2 properties: username, which is going to be empty, and password, which will be empty. Okay, I'm going to expect that I'm going to get a couple things from props. I'm going to expect that like what happens when you submit this form, I'm going to get that from props. So I'm going to get a function called handle submit from props. I'm going to destructure those props so that I don't have to write props dot handle submit. So I'll just grab that and I'll just add additional props as I need them. Okay, let's sketch out the actual form. So form input type equals text. Okay, type equals text. Name equals username. Value equals form.username. Okay, and I do have videos on how to do forms, so if you're not familiar with this pattern, do watch like my intro to React videos. My more recent one, which is like I think is like an intro to React 2021 set of videos. Form.username handle change equals handle change. Although technically that shouldn't say handle change, it should say on change because it's on the change event. Okay. And then I'm just going to want 2 more of these, one for the password and one for the submit button. It's complaining that the handle change function doesn't exist yet, but we'll make that in a second. I won't need that for this one, and I won't need that for this one. All I need this is to say submit. And then actually I do want a label for the button. So I'll put label as a prop, and this will be props.label, or just label, because I destructured the prop. And then this will be form dot, well actually let's do it this way. Password. Okay, so now I need my handle change function to kind of bind the value of the form to the state and vice versa. Const handle change equals, we're going to grab the event because it's triggered on the onChange event. And what I want to do is essentially set the form. I'm going to update the state to a new object that copies the old object and then swaps out the property of the input you're typing in. So event.target.name, so we can determine which item you're editing because it'll dynamically grab this value from the DOM. I mean from that target, because the event target is the DOM node that's triggering the event, and then we're going to set that to its value, target.value, and then that pretty much does the job. Okay. So now all we need to do is handle the submission of the form. Const handle submit equals, and all this is going to do is it's going to prevent the default, event.prevent default, and then I'm going to call the handle submit function that was passed in, which now that I'm thinking about it, that's going to cause a collision. So let's call this, I'll just call it submit. There we go. So this will just take the submit function and pass it in the form data, because that's all it needs, and then that function will handle the rest. So now we just need to bind that function there on submit equals handle submit. Okay, there we go. And that's it. That form is complete, and I can use it for sign up and log in. Okay, I don't have to recreate this whole form twice. So now I can head up over to the sign up page. Okay, and what I'm going to need is I'm going to need the auth form. So let's import the auth form. Import auth form. And I am going to want to also import the use auth state from /atoms, that's all I need. So that's an index.js in there. And I'm going to need anything else that I need. I think we're good for now. Oh, I'm going to need the use navigate hook from router, use navigate from router. Okay, because what's going to happen is I'm going to write a function. I have to write the handle submit function here for that form. Okay, so essentially all I'm really doing here is I'm just going to call the auth form component. But the auth form component expects two props, submit and label. And label is just going to say, like, create new user. Which actually I don't even need the curly brackets for that. Create new user. Okay, but what I do need is this handle submit function. So I'm gonna need the navigate function while I do that. So const navigate equals use navigate, and then I'm going to need that auth state. So const auth state set auth state equals use auth state. Okay, because again, this returns the result of use recoil state, which returns the state and a setter, just like use state. That's like the benefit of recoil. It feels a lot like just using normal React. Okay, so I got those two pieces. So now I just need to write this handle submit function. So const sign up, I'll just call it sign up submit, equals a function that's going to take in the form data. So we'll just say data equals, okay, and again, this should be receiving the URL props, so let's just destructure that. And it is actually better to destructure performance-wise as well, because if you just take in the whole props object, you keep all those properties in memory, but if you destructure, there's no reference to that props object after the fact, so it should get garbage cleaned. So if there's additional props that aren't being used, they get kind of cleaned up. So it's not a bad thing to do if I understand that correctly. Either way, it's still a good thing to do. because it's just also cleaner code. Sign up, submit. Okay, so let me think what I want to do here. So really all I want to do here is make a submission to our sign up route, which should be, okay, so we're going to say, and I want to make this an async because I'm doing async stuff. So async. So const response equals fetch, and the URL is URL plus auth/signup. That's the URL we're making a request to. And basically the method should be a post request. We'd still need to specify the content type headers. Okay, content type application JSON. Cool. And that should be good for that. Now I just need to send the body. So the body should be JSON, well, called body, and then JSON.stringify, and then we're stringifying the data from the form. And then that should kind of handle the sign up, but again, we want to make sure that we get the response. So const data equals response.json. I realize I'm forgetting some awaits. So I need an await here, and I need an await here. Okay, because each of those functions return a promise, and I want to pause that function until that promise resolves. Because that's really what the await keyword does. It says pause. Okay, so this tells JavaScript that I can do that. And because I'm going to be able to pause the function, we don't know how long it's going to take for this function to get to its return value. So async basically says, whatever the return value of this function is, wrap it in a promise. So this function will, async function will always return a promise. Not that it really matters right now. And because of that, we are able to use the await keyword. Like that's why you have to use await in a function. Because there's this, because you need to be in a context of an implied promise for this to kind of function. No pun intended. Okay, response.json. Okay, so that looks good to me. So in this case, we would get the data back, and the data would have, so then in that case, what I would want to do then is use the set auth state. So set auth state to a new object where logged in is now true. And then I would then just spread the rest of this object. I don't even need to do that. Data. We should include username, password, and I think that's it. If I remember how we made the API. Okay, and then I would want to push them to sort of the login page. So set, or actually navigate to /login. Okay. Now what's this complaining about? Oh, because I have two things called data. So we'll just call this form. And I'll make this form. I don't have like multiple things having the same name, which causes issues. And then I can just pass up that function down, sign up, submit. Okay. Cool. Now, if I had more time, I would probably add some extra stuff here, because I would want to check like if is the response like, does it have the right status? Like is it like a 400 status or something like that? That might mean it's an error. So I might do something like, I think if I can do like if response dot status equals 400, you know, then what I would do is now we can just do it like an alert error and then just return 0 because we don't want this to go any further. Okay, so that'll just be like, oh, okay, there's an error in this response, and I could go get the response message and kind of go further with it, but really, in that case, what I would want to do is I want to do that like Control X. Probably would want to do that like here, and because after that we have data, and then I would want to alert like it's like, if I remember, it should be like data.error. Okay, because that's this way I set up the API that the response would be this object with an error property. And then that would return 0, and then we never actually set the state or navigate in that situation. So let's see if that works. So if I'm going to go sign up, and see there's the form. So I'm going to create a user called YOLO with the password of YOLO. Oops, I didn't make that a password field. But let's see here. If I create a new user, it should push me to the login page. So let's see if it does that. Nothing happened. Did I actually attach the function? So let's see here. Submit equals sign up submit. Then that gets passed down to the auth form. Auth form receives the submit. And then it does call the submit form. And is that on submit? Yeah, that's on submit. So let's check. Did the request get made? Oh, okay, expected. So syntax. So it did try to make a request. Sign up. Wait, no, that's wrong. Here we go. So let's try this again. Oh, I got a 404. Undefined auth. Why did I do that? So let's take a look. Sign up. URL. Because it's not receiving this prop. Because I never pass it that prop. Okay, I never did go back and pass that prop down here. So I need to go do that. So I'm going to go destructure the URL prop from main, because again, that is receiving it from app. And then I'm going to go pass it to all of these, because they're all going to need it. URL. I mean, I could have probably made this like its own Recoil atom, but the thing is that like it doesn't change. It doesn't have to be stayed because it never changes. Okay. So let's see here. Now that should fix that up. So let's see here. Let's refresh the page. Type in YOLO as the username, YOLO as the password. Okay, and see that time it worked. So it did create a new user. Okay. So if I see here, like there's a response, username, role, etc. So now if I go back to sign up and I try to sign up with the same user again, let's see what happens. I get an object. So that means I'm interpolating an object. So that means I didn't quite set that exactly the way I thought I did. So that error. Let's console log that. Data.error. Okay, and let's try that again. Let's see what the console log shows. Index 0. Oh yeah, that's right, because it's going to show you the Mongo error. Because this is an error saying like, hey, this is a duplicate user. I'll probably just do this way. Console.error. So that way it shows up as red. Get rid of the alert. And let's see how that looks. There we go. Now see it shows the error as an error, which is nice. Okay, and I can go here. And again, this is a Mongo error. So it is what it is. Key value, username, YOLO. The idea is basically, if you're familiar with Mongo errors, 1100 always means you violated the schema. And it's because we already created a user called YOLO, and the schema says that the username has to be unique. So our sign up is working. Great. So the cool thing is now we just go to login. I'm going to just import these same things again. So I don't need to rewrite all that. Okay, and then once again, we're just going to have the auth form component. Auth form. And then again, it needs a submit prop and a label prop. Okay, and the label will just be login. Okay. And while I'm at it, I should probably go change that into a password field. So let me go back to the auth form, back to the password field, and change it from a text field to a password field, so it hides the password as it should. Now back to login. Now I need to make, I can copy a lot of that stuff over from from sign up. Okay, I'll just literally kind of copy this whole thing because most of it will be the same. I'm going to pull in the okay, so I'm going to pull this out, and that's good. That's fine, but this is going to be login submit instead. Okay, and this is going to end up being auth/login, so all this part's the same. Okay, so now, technically, this is where I want to do that. Because technically, they didn't log in here. So I didn't need to do this here. And technically, I probably didn't need to import the auth state here for sign up. So let me take all that out. Okay. And let me go to back to login. And then this should navigate the dashboard. Okay, and dashboard, auth state, login submit. Okay, and again, this is going to be login submit down here. So that looks good for the most part, except I need to go destructure URL from here. Okay, auth login, post application JSON, we submit the form, const data await, then yeah, I check if there's an error, that's fine, perfect. Then I set, also what I'm going to want to do is not only just set the auth state, but I'm also going to want to set local storage. So I'm going to say set local storage dot set item, and we're going to call this auth, and then I'm going to set it to JSON dot stringify. That should be really JSON dot stringify, and then I'm going to want to stringify the data. Okay, because it is what local storage is, it allows you to store strings in the user's browser. So I'm storing a string with that data we just got back, confirming that they've been logged in. Okay, so that'll confirm that they are logged in, so that way we have that data in there, so we can use it in case you need to like check if they're that boolean if they're logged in. You need to, so we'll come back to that in a second. But we'll just test out that login is working first, but that should do it. Okay. And again, at the end of this, I will push this up to GitHub so you can take a look at it. But now that I'm in login, I should be in login now. I'm going to go YOLO as a username. YOLO is the password. I hit login. And see, it pushed me to the dashboard. So it works. Okay. I don't care about the username password here. So now I can see this. If I go to local storage over here, I should be able to see here. It should be localhost 3000. And I can see there it is. So we stored that data there, that the username is YOLO and their role is general. And again, depending, you can go back and see how I built that API. You could pass different roles at the signup. Like that signup route could have taken a different role, but it defaults to general. And now I can use this data here to like do if statements. But now here's the problem. Well, let's go to the dashboard first. And what I want this dashboard to only be accessible if you're logged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull import use navigate from React Router DOM. And what I'm going to do is say, okay, use navigate. Okay, and I also are going to want to use the auth state. So import use auth state from // atoms. So again, const navigate equals use navigate, and then const auth state set auth state equals use auth state. And what I want to do is check if they're logged in. I'm going to say if auth state dot logged in is true, then I want this to happen. Then, if not, I'm going to want to navigate them back to /login. I'm going to be like, nope, you need to log in. Okay, and I'll return null just in case. So that way it doesn't complain that I didn't return anything. Okay, so basically I set it up that, hey, it's going to check, hey, is this person logged in? And if not, it's going to push them back to the login page. Okay, so now if I go, so let's see what happens when I go to the dashboard. Dashboard. Just return nothing. Well, it's because I think, well, because the auth, I think the state hasn't reset. So components. Oh, there we go. Let's see here. Let's go to our dashboard component. Where did I do that? Oh, I should probably read the error. Export type. Router. I don't think I did. Use auth. Let's just restart the app. Sometimes all the caching gets a little confused. Okay, so let's go to login. I will log in. YOLO. YOLO. That brings me over to the dashboard. So all that's working fine. Now if I hit refresh, see it generates null. So it's not navigating to login. ¿Por qué? Navigate to login. Use navigate. Use navigate. So it's telling me somehow auth state login is not true or false. That's kind of weird. Let me think about that for a second. Let's see if it's even evaluating that. So console.log, not logged in. So let me go to the dashboard. And then let's open up the DevTools. Okay, so it is going through that if statement. It's just the navigate function isn't doing what I'd like it to do. So in this case, what we'll do instead is I'll just return an H1 saying must be logged in to see this page. Okay, so you see, like that's not ideal, right? Because I can log in. YOLO, YOLO. I hit login, and I can see the dashboard, but the minute I refresh the page, I'm logged out again. Okay, so we want to fix that. So how do we fix that? What we want to do is we'll head back to app, and we're going to import useEffect. Import useEffect. No, useEffect, not callback. And what I just want to do is do a useEffect, and I'm going to actually need to use the auth router too. So import use auth state. Okay, and then I'm going to first import the auth state. So const use auth state. No. Auth state set auth state equals use auth state. So I have that there. And then I'm going to do a useEffect. And the useEffect is going to have this function that's going to run only the first time this application loads. And all this is going to do is const data equals json.parse local storage dot get item, and then I think we called it auth. So it's going to check, okay, so I'm going to get the data from auth. Okay, if there is no auth, then it's going to give me like nothing. Okay, so then I'll say const, and then I'm going to do an if statement. If there is data there, okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to set the auth state, and we're going to set the auth state to the actually we don't even need to do that. It's logged in to true, and then dot 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 the data that was stored in there. So that's going to just check like, hey, have you already logged in recently? Okay, so now if I go to the dashboard, that stuff should still be in local storage, and see like I'm able to log in. You see like must be logged in for like a second, but again it just quickly checks and realizes I am logged in. Okay, now, but right now I'd be logged in forever, so I need to have like a logout option. Okay, so we need to be able to log out. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's going to have to be done in header, because we're going to create a logout button. Okay, the only difference is that this logout button is just going to be a div. So this just be not a link, because we're not linking to another component. Okay, logout. In an ideal world, I might make these conditional, like they only show up if you're logged in, or show up if you're logged out, make the menu a little bit more dynamic. But we're at the kind of the tail end here. Import use auth state. Actually, let me think about that. Yeah, I do want the auth state because we need to update that. So import use auth state. I'm also going to need use navigate. Import use navigate. And I'm going to need to import use auth state, use navigate. Let me think here, because basically what we need to do is clear out the token, make a call to the logout route. That works for me. Okay, so I think that's all we need. And I'm going to need to make sure that this is receiving the URL. So let me head over to app and make sure that header is receiving the URL as well. Okay. Header. So really all I'm going to do is create a function, const logout equals, and when they click the button, okay, this should be an async function. This is going to do a const response equals await fetch, and it should just make a get request to URL plus auth / logout, if I remember right how I made the API. So in that case, I don't really need to put any headers or anything else. Like that should do the job. Except I need to go destructure the URL from props. And it's log out, not log out. Log out. Okay, and so once that is done, okay, we'll check if the response is successful. If response dot status equals 200, then what I want you to do is local storage dot remove item, remove the auth item, and then I want you to, we need to get the auth state in here. So const auth state set auth state equals use auth state. Okay, so then what I'm going to want to do is set auth state to logged in false. Okay, username empty, role empty. And then I'm going to want to navigate, which I have to go get that navigate function, navigate you back to the main page. Okay, and let me go get the navigate function. So const navigate equals use navigate. Okay, and then now I should be good. Okay, so I'm on the dashboard. If I click log out, well, actually I haven't attached the function there. Click. Okay, on click equals log out. Okay, I mean I can style the button to make it look more like a link. I'm not gonna worry too much about that right now, but I can click on this button now and see, oh, it broke stuff. Hooks can only be called inside the body of a function. This could happen for one's following. Did I call a hook somewhere else? Well, I mean, yeah, but that's just not creating the hook. So where does it think I am export function to replace? So it doesn't like that I call navigate there, but I called it with a capital N. That's the problem. N. Okay. So let me do this again. Let me log in. YOLO. YOLO. So I'm on the dashboard. And again, if I refresh the dashboard, I stay logged in. Nice. But if I click logged out, and now if I go to dashboard, if I try to manually type in dashboard, must be logged in to see this page. So I'm not logged in anymore. Okay. Yeah. And as far as like making my API requests, I just make my API requests in my endpoints. I don't have to do anything special with the headers. You know, you just make your, because the data that the backend is going to need is going to be in the HTTP only cookie. If you read the backend tutorial, the building of the API. So in that case, that part just kind of handles itself. But this way we manage that login logged out state here on the front end, and we're good to go. We can just proceed forward, and dashboard can do the things dashboard needs to do, display all the to-dos, and we can just further build out the actual application to do what it needs to do. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Have a great day and enjoy.